Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. It's BA Friday, Business Analysis Friday again. Sorry about that. Okay, today we're going to discuss process maps. This is a really detailed topic. So I was like, let me not add anything else. Let's just focus on process map because honestly, we're going to be touching it. The people that are going to get to actually practicalize it will be the BAs in the internship. So because of the limited time and how vast the topic is, it's vast, but it's not hard at all. It's really, really easy. I'm just going to touch on the fundamentals, but you have to know that as a BA, process map, process modeling, this is bread and butter, core business analysis. So let's get started. So, like I said, it's a tutorial on business process maps. We're going to learn what they are, what are the different types, how they're used to make your analysis easier, and how to create them. So, again, our pro tip is always start with the goal in mind. When you have a well-defined objective of what you want your process map to achieve, then you can make sure that it's clear, it's effective, and can be used, it's actionable. Okay, so what kind of process map do you want? What is the goal of creating this process map? You have to know that first before you start. So agenda. So that was just the preamble. So these are the different things we're going to touch on. So we're going to start first with the review or demo from your last task. I want to see what you've done. I want to see how far you've gone. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is a training program, so of course we don't expect perfection from you. So all you need is to be confident, to be bold. Share your screen. We're just going to we don't have a lot of time, so we're just going to take like 2 people who are bold enough to share their screen and let me see what their tasks are, and then I can give you feedback. So the first 2 people that raised up their hands, Ozzy did not waste time. One more person to raise up their hand, and then it will just be those 2 that will take for the demo. So Ozzy's hand is up. Please go ahead, Ozzy. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen
Brilliant.
now. Uh, still in the making, but I want you
No
to see what
problem.
I've done. Can you see my screen?
It's coming up. Yes. Okay. Awesome. I can see it.
I've not
So
completed everything, but I've done some of them.
no problem at all. So if I'm not mistaken, your task from the last session is to create user stories along with acceptance criteria. So that's
Yes.
just a very short recap of what your task was. So your user story is: as a newly registered user, I want to register by creating a new username and password and get an email confirmation when I register so that I will know the registration is complete. Okay. I'll finish reading it and then just go back to give you feedback. Acceptance criteria is: given I am a new user and I navigate to the sign up page, when I enter my username and password, and I am successfully registered and able to log in with my credentials. Okay. So very, very, very good attempt. If I was DG, I know I'll be giving out some really good, what they call it here, some good, rewards here. But this was really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, my um my feedback is, normally in your description,
Yeah.
usually have one goal. I want to do one thing. Usually it's very rare. Again, there are no hard and fast rules. People write their user stories differently, but usually have I want to do this one thing so that I can get this one result.
Yeah.
Your acceptance criteria will now cover the complexities of all those things you want to do.
Okay.
So, for example, if I was to write this user story, I would say, as a newly registered user, I want to register an account so that I can make use of my profile or account or whatever. Remember, it's an online shopping cart.
Oh
So I was like,
yeah.
okay, so no, let's go back again. You say as a newly registered user, I want to register. So if you're a newly registered user, you won't want to register again. You're already registered. Yeah, you can't register twice. So
Yes.
if you're a new user, then you want to register. But if you're a newly registered user, then what's the next step? What do you think the next step will be?
To be able to log in.
Brilliant.
That's good.
100%. That's it. So I want to log into my account. I'm registered. I want to log into my account.
Yeah.
And then once I log in, what would I want to do when I get there?
To use the platform.
For what?
Sh-
Remember what
me-
kind of platform it is.
Oh yeah, to make orders and orders, deliveries.
Yep, exactly. Most people, even when you go onto an online shop, most people don't go to browse, they go to buy. You can end up browsing and not buying. But normally, when I log on to Tesco, I go to Amazon not to buy something. I can get there and decide not to, but I don't log on to Amazon just to browse. Very few people do that. There's a reason people do what they do. So you always have to think of the reason. So because this is an online shopping cart, as a newly registered user, I want to log into my account so I can buy whatever their product is, So that's just
Yes.
basically that would be my user story. So
Okay.
all the intricacies of logging in,
Mm.
which is creating a new password. If you're registered, you've already created a new username and password, getting confirmation email. So that won't work. Okay, so let's say your second line is where you want to focus on. If your second line is where you want to focus on, then your first line will be you can't be registered. So you have to be like a new user.
The user,
So you
yeah.
have to decide what you want. If I'm a new user, the second line will work very well. But if I'm already registered, then the second line cannot work at all because I already have all these things. So I want to believe that this is a new user
Yeah.
because everything else is, even your acceptance criteria says new user. So yeah, okay. So as a new user, I want to. So now let's say you're a new user, you want to register. You just say, I want to register. The process of registration includes creating a username, password, getting email
Confirmation.
confirmation. So all that is included in the word I want to register.
Okay.
Where you now break it down will be your acceptance criteria. Your description is usually very short and simple. I want to register so I can have access to my account. I want to use my account. Then, given I'm a new user, once you get to the acceptance criteria, you start talking about I'm a new user. When you're a new user where the internet is massive. You can even be a new user of a physical product. So you have to be specific. I'm a new user of a particular website. Remember, we said it was BlueSky
Blue sky.
Citadel. So
Yeah.
I'm a new user. When I am on that website, remember we talked about preconception.
Yeah.
When before you start navigating anywhere, because the internet is vast, you have to be in a particular site to be able to get to that sign up page. So you have to specify as a new user of that website.
Yeah.
Then when I navigate to the sign up page, brilliant, we'll leave that there.
Yeah.
And I enter my username and password. Remember, this is a registration process, so you don't have a username and password. You have to create. So that's why you have to understand what process you're in. The
Yes.
process of logging in and the process of registration are two different things. So once you understand the process you want to go into, then it's very clear and you can now highlight your steps. So if you're saying you're a new user and you want to sign up, you don't have an existing username and password. You'll be prompted to create one. Do you understand? So you can say, I want to create my username and password,
Yeah.
and then I'm successful. No, but before, again, remember step by step. So after you've created your username and password, what do you do on a website? The
Then
process of
you.
logging in, you
Yeah.
enter your username, password. What's the next step?
You normally. Is this for the acceptance criteria
No,
now?
just think of yourself on a website. You want to
Okay.
register. So you enter a username, you enter your password. What's the next thing the site will ask you? You're supposed to do.
So I'm sorry, can I say something?
Of course, go ahead.
Yeah, so you have to click enter so that the system accepts the username and password.
Fantastic. Yeah. There's a button you have to click. Submit, enter, sign in, log in, whatever that button is. Once you click it, then the system will now say, will now register you. And that's when, remember, even in your what they call it, your description, you talked about get an email confirmation. You didn't say anything about that in your acceptance criteria. Okay. That's when you now say, okay, when I click it, then I will get a message saying you successfully registered, or I'll get an email notification. Once I click on that email notification, then so just think about a new website and all the steps you have to go. Don't miss out on any step, because that's what your testers will have to go through. Yeah. So this is really, really, really good. I will skip to the next person because we don't have that much time. Yeah. But Ozzy, this is a huge improvement from last week. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic.
I'll stop sharing now.
Yes, thank you. Eva, did you want to share? Your hand is up, or did you have a question?
I want to share.
Okay, we'll do that really quickly. 1 minute, 1 minute before we go into our session. I'll try and be very brief with my feedback, because sometimes, it's almost like we're in the actual internship.
Are you seeing my screen?
One. Not yet.
Oh. It should have. I clicked it. It was okay. Share.
Yeah, share screen. Okay, it's coming up now. Awesome. All right, brilliant. Let's see what you have. Do you want to scroll up? Okay, this is the okay. So it says, as a new customer, I want to create an account with BlueSky Express so that I can order groceries for online delivery. Okay, this is really good. Pro tip, try as much as possible, because you're still learning and you want to remember the cadence. Try as much as possible to keep everything on one line. So as a one line, I want one line, so that one line. That way your brain, you're training your brain to follow that format. Okay, so as a new customer, I want to create an account with BlueSky so that I can. Brilliant. I love this. This is absolutely awesome. You're a new customer, you're creating an account, and your purpose is very, very clear. I have no notes on your user story. Very great. Okay. Your acceptance criteria. Where is our gherkin format now? Where is our giving when then?
Oh.
No giving when then. You didn't give me giving. The giving was not given. You didn't give me giving. Given when then. So let me look at what you have, but already remember we're following a format. So you have to put it in that way. Okay. There are other ways to do it, but here we want to follow the format. And then so what I love what happens in BlueSky. What happens in BlueSky is that you get trained on the actual format. Once you go to work, you find that sometimes people will use it, sometimes people won't use it. But whatever work you go to and they insist on you using it, you will flow. So it's just like you know how to run. If you know how to run, then you can walk, you can crawl. So that's the thing here. Always try and learn the cadence. It says, okay, system will display. So this is the other what they call it now, checklist-based way of creating an acceptance criteria. It's useful, people use it, but again, so this system will display a registration form with all these things. System validates required. So something like this now, it's hard to test. The testers, there's no step-by-step thing that the testers will test. You're just telling them what the system will do, but in what order will the system do it? How are they? It's hard to test. Yeah, so there's a way for this to work, in practice, but normally the cadence of that given when then is very, very easy to test, because it's line by line by line by line by line. Check, pass or fail, everything is good. So this is okay, it's good. If you go to some places of work, they are not fussy. They're like, if you give me this, I'll probably take it. But honestly, the mark of a really good BA is that you know how to follow that cadence. Okay, well done.
I can correct it on the platform right again, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Allow me, if we wait till the end of the session, the admin, Damsola, they will let you know if it's possible to
Thank you.
correct it. Well done, Eva. Well done, Ozzy. Really, really good.
You can
To both
attempt it
of
again.
you.
Sorry to disturb. You can attempt it again. You have more than 3 times to submit. I put there up to 3 times, so you can submit again.
Okay. You have not checked it back and it's still showing 50%, despite I submitted this earlier.
Okay. No worry. Don't
Thank
worry.
you.
It's Uzo that will check it for you, so don't worry.
All right, let me go back to sharing my screen now. Going back to our presentation. Okay, fantastic. So I'll just skip through this. So remember, this is about process maps. That's what we are learning about today. But what is a process map? Before you get to the process map, you have to understand what the process is. And we're business analysts, so it has to be a business process. So a business process is a series of related tasks or activities that has specific inputs and outputs. All these things matter. Specific inputs and outputs, they have to be performed by individuals, teams, or systems, and they are made to achieve a specific business goal. These words are not ordinary words. They all matter. So be very, pay attention. Add them to your glossary if you need to. Specific inputs and outputs. So again, there has to be clearly defined objectives. What process are you trying to define? We live in a world of processes. Think about your life. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're waking up in the morning, having a shower, brushing your teeth, eating your breakfast, getting in the car, getting on the tube, getting on the train, going to work, turning on your system, coming home, picking your kids, having family night, date night, whatever it is, there is a process we follow most of the time. Yeah, but now we're restricting it to processes within the workplace. So in your workplace, think about again your interactions at work, whether you're going to the bank, whether you're going to whatever business, a hairdresser, whatever it is, there's a process that business runs by, either with you and the business owner, or now if you're within that business. So let's say a bank, for example, there's a process the cashiers follow, there's a process the HR follows, there's a process the finance team follows. They all follow processes, regular processes all the time. So these are clearly defined. And because we have loads of processes, our whole lives are full of processes, you have to define which one are you trying to highlight. So where is the start of it and where is the end of it? Because if not, you'll be in a trap. You just be going on and on and on and on and on, because our lives are full, businesses are full of processes. So you have to be specific. Firstly, what process are you trying to define? Where does it start? Where does it end? Yeah. So it involves different stakeholders. Remember stakeholders, systems. It follows a particular flow. So it's repeated. Come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if you're talking about that process, they will do it the same way. Think about, again, you're going to the bank, you want to deposit a check. You go to deposit a check on Wednesday, it's the same thing they will do. You go on Friday, the same thing they will do. You go December, it's the same thing they will do. You go March, it's the same process. It can be measured and it can be optimized. And again, it's repeatable and can be standardized. So remember, I talked about it being repeatable. Now, we've talked about what the business process is. For you to map out the process, it's called a process map. And this is a technique where you visually represent that business process to clearly show what the sequence of the steps are, what decisions are made. Remember, I talked about specific inputs and outputs. What are those inputs and outputs? Once you can visually highlight what the process is, then you can analyze it, you can document it, you can improve on it, you can optimize it just to make it efficient. So we use different diagrams and flow charts to represent the workflows. Again, you use it to highlight inefficiencies, bottlenecks and gaps. That's good, but you can also use it to train people. So it's not always bad. You can use it to, to make the process better, but you can also use it to make this process standardized. Let's say, for example, you have two cashiers. Both of them are tasked with meeting customers and collecting checks and collecting cash. The way cashier A does it is different from the way cashier B does it. Maybe cashier A gets it, she takes a note of it and processes it and then hands it a receipt back to the customer, and that's it. Maybe cashier B, the way she does it, she collects it, she takes a note down, she goes, takes a photocopy of the receipt, then she'll go type the receipt again on her system, then she'll now hand it over. So they are doing the same thing, but the way they are doing it is a bit different. You can highlight what those processes are and say, there's no need to do this thing. Why don't you just do it the way both of you do it the same way? So that way we know that the process is standardized. In fact, sometimes you can automate the process, and, again, the reason is that you facilitate continuous improvement. Okay, so that's the reason, one of the reasons we do it. Again, it's a way of modeling. It's called modeling. Mapping is modeling. You want to model, highlight, show, outline what the process is. Okay, so, and then when you create that diagram, it will show all the different processes and how they're all interrelated, how they all connect. And then you can tell who is doing what and in what order. Yeah, you can. It's very easy to see. Okay, again, like I said, you use it to understand what the current process is. Use it to understand the responsibilities of people. What exactly is this person doing? What are their responsibilities? You identify efficiencies. You can design a new process. Maybe you can say the way these people are doing this thing, they've been doing this thing since 2015. This is 2025. It's been 10 years. We can make this process better. So firstly, you have to highlight what the current process is. Then you design a new process to make it better. And then, like I said, it can be used for training. Someone starts work and they put them through onboarding. This is the way we do things in this place. I know you used to work in bank, HSBC, but here in Barclays, this is how we do it. So you show them the process so they'll know how they do it in that particular business. So you can use it for training. Why is it important? I've already talked about all of this. I put a lot of it here for you so that you can read it, like I said, like I always do. Again, the important thing to highlight here is you use it to align with stakeholders so everybody understands what the process is. So there's no ambiguity. And then you use it to support regulatory compliance and standard. Remember, I talked about standardization. This is how this thing is done in this place. This is how we operate in this place. So it's really, really important. There are loads of different process maps. I can't go through all of them. In fact, I can't even highlight all of them in this training, but I'll just go through a few and focus on one. So you just have the basic one. As you can see, this is step 1, step 2. You start the process. Remember, I said there's a specific step. You start the process, there's step 1, step 2, there's a decision, yes or no, and then it ends. So that's a very simple one. Very simple visualization of the process. Then you have a detailed one where you can go A, B, C, D, E. You stop here. It's convoluted. Let me give you an example. Yeah. Let's say you want to talk about your early morning routine. And you say, okay, when I wake up in the morning, my process is I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I take a shower, I take a cup of coffee, I go down to take the bus. The bus takes me to the train station. From the train station, I go to work. That's your simple process of how you wake up in the morning and you get from your house to work. Now, the detailed process will be, I wake up in the morning, I stretch, then I do my exercises. Then I go and I take a brush and I brush my teeth for 2 minutes and I floss And then, I do all of, then I go and I have a shower. I make sure I shampoo my hair, and, I wash very well. Then I lay my clothes out, make sure that they're properly ironed. And then when they're done, I turn on the coffee machine. And then when the coffee is brewing, I put on my clothes, make sure my shoes are shined. Then I grab my keys, I go outside, I wait for 5 minutes for the bus. The bus comes, it takes me from here to this train station. Then I hop on the tube. Then from the tube, I hop on maybe the Northern Line. Then I get on the Central Line. Then it stops me at Oxford Circus Station. Then I walk for 5 minutes, and then I go into the office, and then I use my key, my pass. I tap in, the gates open, they allow me in. One is a very simple process. The other one, I went into detail. So when you have, again, remember, as a business analyst, you have to ask, how much detail do you want me to go into? Do you want a high level process map, or do you want me to go into detail? Whenever people are asking you to create a process map, you have to find out what they want from you. Do you guys want me to go into the main process, or do you want me to go into the sub processes? Like, do you want me to dig deep? So that's different. The difference between that, this basic one or the detailed one. Now, this is we're going into names. There are a number of different names for process maps. This is a cross-functional diagram, yeah? And it's usually called a swim lane diagram. So it shows the relationship between different stakeholders. Have you guys seen, I'm sure you know, like an Olympic swimming pool. During the Olympics last year, the swimming pool, the swimming sessions, each of the countries had a lane. So the UK had a lane, the US had a lane, they all had lanes, and you swam in your lane. So that's what this is basically typifying or modeling. So the customer has his own lane, the clerk has his own lane, the the kitchen has point of sale have their own lane, everybody have their own lane. They each interact in some activities, in some tasks, in the processes, but here you can see what the customer does that only the customer does, what the clerk does, and then you see how they interrelate. So you can see the arrows going back and forth. That means that shows you the relationship between the two tasks of the two different stakeholders in the two separate lanes. So you can see these 4 lanes and how they interact. This is a use case diagram. Again, in the internship, we're going to go in depth to talk to you about all these different processes, what they are, and how to do them. So this is a use case. It's usually used between an actor and a machine. So think about you in Tesco and you're doing the self-checkout. You literally went into Tesco, you got your groceries, and you went to a machine, you scanned your, what did they call it, your goods, paid, and you left. So that interaction was between you and a system. So a use case is usually between an actor and a person, a stakeholder. For use cases, they're called actors, and then the system. So we're going to delve a bit deeper into your cross-functional diagram. It's usually used because when you're working in organizations, there are different functions. The HR is a function, the finance is a function, the customer service person is a function, the customer is a function, and all these interact. The system is another function. So all these interact. So a lot of times in businesses, it's really good to understand how to create a swim lane diagram or a cross-functional diagram. They are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. So if someone tells you create a swim lane process map for me, you know they're asking for a cross-functional process map. So if we have time, we'll go talk about that a bit more. So these are, So these are some commonly used shapes. Remember, I told you that everything in business analysis, it's easy, but it's structured. So if we tell you to create a process map, then all the shapes that you're using, there's a format for doing it. There's a format for start, stop, people, yes, no, decisions, documents, all of these. So these are some commonly used shapes. You can look at that in your, take your time and go through that. Now, these are some terms in process mapping. I can't go into all of them, but I've talked to you about swim lanes, so you know about that. I've talked to you about the different levels. So do you want a basic one or do you want a detailed one? It's called granularity, or it's called levels. So sometimes you're like, do you want a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 diagram? So level 1 is usually very high level, very basic. Or do you want like mid-level, or do you want me to go deep? That's when I talk about level 3. So that's your granularity. That's basically what it's called. And then you have your gateway. So a gateway is a decision, okay? But in some diagrams, people have to make a decision. So let's say you're applying for an HR role and you're the HR officer and you get loads of different applicants. You see an applicant's CV and you can either say, yes, I'm interested in this person's CV, or no, I'm not interested in this person's CV. If it's a yes, there's a process that CV will go through, because you want to separate it or pass it on and say, okay, I want to invite this person for an interview. If it's a no, there's a process that CV will go through, because you're like, I'm not interested in this person for now. Maybe I want to keep their CV in file, or I'm never interested in it. I'm not even interested at all. So that decision as to whether that CV is a yes or no is a gateway. If it's a no, it goes through a different path. If it's a yes, it goes through a different path. So it's usually depicted by what they call it now, a diamond figure. I'll show that to you later. Activity task, we've talked about that. Process, sub-process, we talked about that. Actor, we've talked about that. BPML, UPM, these are process languages. I can't go too deeply into that, but you learn about that during, it's very easy, very interesting, but I just can't go too deep into that. The event is the last one I want to talk about. Remember, I told you that every process has a specific input and output, specific tasks and activities. The event is a trigger. What starts that process? Something has to start that process. Remember, I talked about someone applying to the HR. Before that CV comes to the HR person, the applicant will see the job application and click on apply. That apply is what starts the process. I can be seeing many different CVs and job roles and adverts. Until I click apply, nothing will happen. My CV will not go in front of anybody. Nothing will happen. When I click on apply, something happens. The system will show me the portal. I'll fill it in, send in my CV. My CV will go to the HR. The HR will decide yes or no. So that act of apply is the trigger. That's the event that starts that process. So you have to always identify what is the start or trigger of your process and what is the end of your process. Very, very important. Sequence flow, how it flows. Okay. So before I continue, this is a very quick question. Who can answer this question based on what I've just said now? Who can answer this question? What type of process map is this? If you know it, just unmute and
Okay, so I just need to be sure. Are we talking about like the detailed or the the high level one or detailed, or you're looking at case diagram and so what exactly is the question? I just need to be very sure.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing now? Are you seeing question?
It's
yes.
Okay.
What is
diagram?
So there's a picture of a process map on the right side of your screen now, right? Can you see that?
Yes, it looks like, yeah.
So what is the name of this? What type of process map is this based on everything I just told you? What kind of process map is this?
Looks like it's a cross-functional one because you see different roles. You have student, administration, registrar, and faculty. So it sort of shows how all the roles are intertwined or how they relate with one another using your word.
Brilliant. Does it look like, or is it?
It
Commit
is, it
to your
is, it
answer.
is.
Thank you. Commit to your answer. You know, take
It-
your test because it's correct. You actually got it right. It's correct. The second question is my bad. Yeah, I can't really ask you that because I didn't tell you that. But every process map, best practice is important for you to name your process map. Remember, I told you it has a start and an end. What is it called? It's important to name it because when you name it, then you know what process map you're writing. So I didn't tell you that. So this second question, I can't ask you that because that's what's missing. There's no name. So yeah, it's fine. But that just to highlight, you know, best practice. Always name your process map. Okay, so brilliant, very, very well done. Absolutely great. Very, very quick points before you start your process map. Oh, I've even said it here. Hey man, I should have moved the whatever to the next slide. Firstly, you identify it. I told you that. You name it. What's the reason? And then you now determine what your scope is. Remember, if you don't determine what your start and end point is, which is your scope and the boundaries of your process, you can just go on and on and on and on because people do so many different things in the day. Where does it start? Where does it end? You have to highlight that. So firstly, you have to highlight what activities you want to map out. You have to name your process. You have to find out what the purpose is and determine what your boundary is, what's your scope, what's the trigger, and how does it end. So these things are very important before you even start your process map. It's really, really important. What happens is that people just go straight and start creating process maps and they muddle it up. They get confused. They're like, this thing is hard. The process map is so easy, especially as a business analyst. It's so easy, but just if you start well, you end well. But if you don't, then you get muddled up. So these are just some things that it's important for you to do. I said that we're going to focus a bit on the cross-functional and the swim lane process map. Okay. So again, just to focus on it, the swim lane represents each participant in that process. Yeah. So every participant has a part to play. They have a role. There's something that they're doing. So it's either the system or a particular person or whatever. So take this, everything can be mapped. There's nothing that cannot be mapped. So this is a hospital visit for a patient. The patient arrives and the patient leaves. Day one, day two. Within that time, the patient has stuff that they do. NP is your nurse practitioner. There's something they do. The actual nurse, there's something they do. The doctor has something they do. Your EHR, the admin, there's something they do. So you can tell by where the task is, who is the actor. I don't have to, once I show you this map, it's self-explanatory. I don't have to stress. I'll just show you the map. You can tell who is doing what at each point. Yeah. So this is really, really clear. This is a cross-functional diagram or process map. Yeah. So I'll just go to some quick tools. If you go online, you can see different tools that are free, paid, and all of that. Some of the free ones are Lucid Charts, Miro. You can create a process map with PowerPoint, Draw.io. These are some, of the free ones online. Again, remember, I told you business analysis is a muscle. I want to encourage you, go and try your hand at just creating a process map. I wish we had time. We'll do it. I'll do a quick exercise, but I don't know that I'll be able to actually go in to create a process map. I'll show you some of the tools we use anyway. So Lucid Chat is free, Miro is free. They have free accounts. They have paid accounts, but they have free accounts, so you can create accounts with them. The paid version is your Microsoft Visio. So I love Microsoft Visio, is what I use. Again, it's one of these ones that if you know how to use Microsoft Visio, Lucid Chat, Miro, they're all child's play because Visio is a Microsoft product and it's top of the line. It's detailed. So I just put an image here. It's detailed and all of that. So it's really cool. IBM have their version, and there's some other market versions as well, but Visio is the thing. I don't know that we can go in, but let me just see if I can show you Visio real quick. So this is Visio, your flow chart. It has templates, like I said, that you can pick. This is your cross-functional diagram. So if you want a workflow or whatever you want, BPMN diagram normally is cross-functional, we usually go to. So you can already tell you have your diamond here, you have your steps here, it already tells you this is how it's done. Simply because I don't know that we'll be able to do it, I just want to quickly show you. So it already populated for you. It will create your title. So it tells you, can you imagine? The best practice, it already gives you the format. I talked about naming it. It's told you what is the title of this diagram. It's created swim lanes for you. It's populated swim lane for you here. You can move and create as many swim lanes as you want. Sorry, this wasn't well done. Yeah, so you can create as many swim lanes as you need. It's just there for you. So because we don't have time, I won't go into this. But if you're in the internship, yeah, pro tip, the day you're installing Visio, make sure you're ready. Your laptop is ready, has space. There's no story, because this tool costs a whole lot of money. So for you to get it, make sure that there's no story. It takes a while, so be ready. But don't miss that session, okay? Let me go back quickly to my slides. Okay, so our practical test, if we have time, have very little time, okay? So let's do a practical exercise. Now, before we do this practical exercise, remember we did the pre-work before you start. The one thing I didn't mention there, which I should mention, a lot of people don't say it, but honestly, I love process maps. And the reason I love it when a lot of BAs say they don't like it or they don't understand it is because there's something I do before I start creating my process map, apart from those things I mentioned. Most people just go ahead and start creating process map. That's not the way to do it. Before you start creating a process map, write out the process first. Again, I'm trying to go really fast, but please, I hope you go over this video again. As a BA, yeah, all the information we get is from stakeholders. So when I say create process map, all of that, it's from a stakeholder. There is an owner of the process. There is someone who does that thing you want to map out. That's their job. That person is the owner of the process. So as a BA, you're not going to sit down and figure out, oh God, what comes first, what comes second. That's not our job. Our job is to document and analyze. In order to document, you go to your stakeholder to elicit that information. So you identify who the owner of the process is. Let's say, for example, you want to highlight the example we've been saying all this time, the HR application process. The owner of that process is the HR officer. So rather than you stay in your cubicle and you're trying to figure it out, you set up a meeting with the HR person and you sit them down, say, I want to document this process, the job application process. How does it start? What's the trigger? They'll tell you what the trigger is. You write it. The trigger is when the applicant clicks on the apply button. Oh, nice. Okay. What happens next? They'll tell you. What happens next? You're just writing. You're not creating any process map. You're writing down the steps. This person comes in. This is what they do. Then when I decide that we want to keep the applicant, I send that application to the what can it be now, to an officer who is going to call that applicant. I'm not the one that calls the applicant. There's another person who calls the applicant. So I send that CV to them. You get the full process from that person's point of view. Remember, it's a swim lane. So you have to understand that person's task. They'll tell you, oh, I send it to this person, and then they send it back, blah, 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 blah. So you've identified another stakeholder. Once you're done with that other person, you go to the next stakeholder and you tell them, oh, I'm highlighting this process. When I was highlighting it from the HR officer's perspective, they told me that they usually send the CVs to you. Oh, yes, sir, I get the CVs. Okay, could you please go through the process, you go through once you receive the CV? Oh, okay, that's fine. So when I get the CV, you just start highlighting that other person's task. So you have a second swim lane. Oh, then when it's time to vet the person, maybe we like the person, we want the person to do an initial vetting. There is someone else we send it to who will vet it. And I send the CV to them and I tell them we're interested in this candidate. We want to vet them. We want to, check their references and all of that. You go to the next person in the swim lane and you map out that process as well. You map out the process, you tell them, okay, so this is what I have, A, B, C, D, E, is it correct? Yes. A, B, C, D, E, is it correct? Yes. They'll tell you, yes, it's correct. Only when you have finished taking down the process do you now open your Visio or your Lucidchart or Miro to start creating the process, because you already have it written down. You're not going to be cracking your head to think, yes, no, yes, no. Once you have finished doing that, then you can now say, okay, I want to go back to the people to validate it and check whether it's complete. So again, the reason I said all that is so that we can go through this exercise now. I want you to think about the process of a customer who enters a fine dining restaurant, okay? So they come in, that's the trigger, yeah? They enter into the restaurant. Who can tell me what happens next?
A waiter receives them.
A waiter receives them. Who has a different?
They look for a seat.
Huh?
They look for a seat.
Okay, brilliant. So they can look for a seat. Sometimes you have a hostess who you meet at the door who tells you, welcome to our restaurant. Are you eating in or are you taking out? And then you tell the hostess, I'm eating in. Then the hostess will take you to a seat. Okay, so from that process, what happens?
Then the waiter hands you over the menu.
Brilliant. I like that. The waiter hands you the menu. You look through, and what happens next?
And then you make your order.
Fantastic. Your waiter takes down your order. I like this. I like that. Brilliant. Okay. When the waiter takes your order, what happens?
Then the waiter goes to probably give the order, enters it depending on their process as well. And then, but it goes to the kitchen that will prepare the order.
Okay. Who is in the kitchen?
So there's a chef.
Brilliant. So there's someone that is preparing the order who will say is the chef, right? So when it gets to the chef, what happens?
The chef prepares it.
The order.
Okay, fantastic. The chef prepares the order. Then what happens?
Then it's served.
And who is the actor? Don't forget your actors.
Okay. So I want to believe that the chef serves the food and then the waiter picks it up.
So how does the chef serve it?
Usually they have like a counter, backside kitchen. So put it there. They probably have like a system, but the chef puts it on the counter, probably sends a note or, what's it called? You notify the waiter that the meal is ready.
Brilliant.
So there's a communication. And then the waiter goes to get it.
Okay. And then what happens then?
And hand it over to the customer.
Hands it over or
served.
Thank you. See, you have to be. I love that we're doing this. Every profession has its lingo. So start learning it. That's why I told you glossary. If you don't have a glossary, it's yourself you're doing no. At a point in business analysis, we'll stop taking all these common words that you're talking about and we'll start telling you, use stakeholder, use the right terms. So now we're talking about a restaurant. There are terms that are used. So I love the person who says the food is served at the table. Simple, but restaurant term. Okay, so what happens after that?
And they enjoy their meal.
And
the customer enjoys.
The customer enjoys.
Thank you. And then what happens after that?
So the
Customer
waiter,
makes payment.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
like that.
What
So the
happens is
waiter
that the waiter,
usually comes back
The
to give
waiter
you the
comes
note or the
back
bill.
with their bill.
I
Yes.
love that. You change, you see, you corrected yourself from notes to bill. I like that. Okay, so the waiter presents the bill. Then what happens?
Customer
They make
pays.
payment.
sorry,
The
excuse me,
customer
Uzo, I have a question.
Okay, is it as part of this process
It's
or
about
something
this.
different?
It's about this. I'm thinking of something before the waiter comes to the to bring the bill to the customer.
Yes.
After serving the food, the waiter
Yes.
checks on the customer if he has enjoyed the meal.
Oh, awesome.
And if
Awesome.
the meal, yeah. And
Do you
before
see what is
after
happening now?
pardon?
I didn't specify what granularity I wanted. You don't know if I want a high level or a detailed level. Some people are going really, really high and they're just saying this, and then someone is like, no, there's an enjoyment of the meal. There's the waiter coming back to ask, do you want anything else? All these are part of the process. So that's why as a BA, you have to be clear. Do you want me to delve deep and give you a detailed process? Or do you want just a level 1 process? See, you're seeing what is happening here. Brilliant. Okay. I thank you very much for that. After the waiter confirms that the meal has been enjoyed, what happens next?
Then the waiter brings the bill to the customer when they are ready to pay.
Fantastic. What happens next?
Customer makes payment.
How?
Oh, yeah. So the waiter asks if you want to pay cash or pay by card.
No, but do you understand how business analysis is just taking over you the way you're thinking now? You're analyzing the process. It's the truth. Are you paying with cash or are you paying with a card? That's a decision. So that's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
If it's yes, what happens?
Yeah, so assuming that you're paying with card,
Yeah,
the waiter hands you over the card reader.
Yes, and then what happens?
And then they input your code or your PIN code as it is. Payment is completed as wait.
Sorry, can I come in again?
Yes, go ahead.
You may want to give the waiter a tip.
No, but you understand.
Excuse me.
And receipt. You give them receipts as well.
Yeah.
So when the waiter handing the pay machine, the POS to the customer verified that the amount was what he ate before making payment.
Do you know what? Do you know why I like that you guys are taking time with the payment? Payment is very sensitive here in the UK. It's a specialization on its own because you're dealing with people's money, and I love that you guys are delving deep into the payment process. There are BAs that are focused only on payment. So very, very well done. Okay, so he confirms the cost, and then what happens?
Then he makes the payment.
And then?
And then the cashier processes it.
Issued.
Yeah, and the receipt is issued. Brilliant. So that's one path. The process has ended. What if he says, no, I don't want to pay with a card? What happens?
Okay, an invoice to be raised for the cash.
Yeah, yes.
And handed over.
Bill is still the same, yes. So the same thing is given. Then what happens?
But on the receipt, it's stated that payment is made by cash.
Okay, payment is paid by cash. Thank you. Then what happens?
The payment is not taken to the cashier.
God bless you. Next, what happens?
Cash is confirmed to be accurate.
What if there is extra, a tip, change? What of all those things? What happens then?
If there's a change, yes, the waiter collect the change.
Waiter go pocket time now.
Hey, you want to write down your process?
The waiter collects the change and hands it over to the customer.
Fantastic. Okay, so and then after the payment process is over, what happens?
The waiter tell the customer, have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Then what happens?
The customer leaves.
Customer leaves. After tipping the seller.
They might try to tip the waiter and tell him
Okay, so remember, you have to highlight the repeatable process. There are some things there that are not repeatable. What if the customer doesn't want to chit chat? It's not every time that the customer chit chats. So you have to highlight the part of that activity that is repeatable. There are some things that are not repeatable. Hello, hi, blah, blah, blah. Pleasantries are okay. But when you're saying, oh, he wants to greet him and say, so make sure you highlight the part of the process that is repeatable. That is that part for training. So that's just a caveat. But very, 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 very well done. My time is up. I will leave you with this, what did they call it? With this. Now, let's go through this really, really, really quickly. This is everything I've talked about, really. Consult with the expert. See, the stakeholder is called the process SME. Subject matter expert. So that's why I said expert here. So anybody who owns the process is that process's expert. I do it every day. Nobody knows this process like I know that process. So I'm not going to go to someone who doesn't do the process. I want to find out who owns that process, and then I'll go to that person, because if I go to their boss, the boss may not understand everything that happens. The chef is in the kitchen. He doesn't know everything the waiter does. So I can get his information about how he prepares the meal. But when I want to understand the process between the waiter and the customer, I have to go to the waiter. I can't go to the hostess. I can't go to the chef. I have to go to the person who is the expert of that particular process. Then you have to define the boundaries. Who are the participants? I talked about hand drawing the process. Sometimes you do it in front of the expert. Now we have virtual meetings, so you can do it while you're there in the meeting with the person, or you can do it and share it with them later and confirm the steps. Identify the steps. What are the decision points? Yes or no. Draw. Once you're done with that, only then do you launch don't launch your Visio or Lucid chart until the top bit is done. If not, you will frustrate yourself. Yeah. So draw it, go back to the subject matter expert to confirm that what you have is correct. Remember, it's not your process. You could have missed something. They could have missed something. They do it every day, so they may not really, they may miss some things. So when they tell you the first time, you map it, you go back to them and say, is this a process? I forgot a particular process. So you change it, you go back to them again and say, confirm, is this the complete process? You keep doing that back and forth until it's complete. And everybody says, yes, this process is complete. And you know that you're done with your process map. So that's review with the same process experts to confirm completeness. So your process map is only as valuable as the clarity it brings. If you create a process map that people are confused by, then everybody just wasted their time. So make sure it's clear. And the only way you can do that is that process I just highlighted. So keep it simple, keep it actionable, and then know that there's always room for improvement. So that's why you have to keep going back to check and confirm, is this okay? Is it done? Are you happy with it? Did I capture everything? Remember, it's not your process, so you're just the person documenting it. That takes a lot of load off. Okay, so now your task for the day. Okay, we have created an online shopping platform for BlueSky Express grocery store. You've created work for them because now, they've now created new processes. So they're hiring new BAs, and they want you want to apply for that role on their online portal. The process involves all that I've talked about. Your task is to identify who your key stakeholders are, then create a cross-functional process flow diagram for the business process. As a bonus, if you identify it and you find out that there are inefficiencies or ways things can be done better, you can just write a line or two on how to improve it. So that's your task for the day. I have overshot my time. So if you have any leeway, I'm happy to take questions. If not, then I'm done for the day. Thank you so much. Allow me, go ahead.
How can you people have this session without me participating? I wanted the person to put the tip in a jar, but you people did not let me put the tip in a jar.
Sorry, I wasn't even seeing any of the names. We were just talking, so I didn't even know who was talking. So my bad. Thank you for
It's
that
fine. Thank you. I was
addition.
actually raising my hands so as to stop you quickly,
Oh,
because Moji needs to take over. However,
of course,
if
of
Moji doesn't
course.
mind, we can use 3 minutes to take the questions, and then we call it a wrap for BAs, and then we go through the Azure process. Yeah.
All right,
So
thank you.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Anyone that has questions, shoot now or forever hold your peace. Ayodiji, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just a quick one. I
Sure.
think everything is actually done today. I would like to ask, I don't know, but I think the cross-sectional process mapping is actually the most used, right? That's
It's the most what?
used process mapping.
Used. I won't say it's the most used, but oh, sorry, that's not your question. Go ahead.
No, that's my question. Why I'm
Okay.
saying that is because of the shareholders involved, like
The stakeholders, yeah. So
other.
a lot of things we do as BAs, our days is rare to have a day that is the same as the next day. We do a lot of different things, but these are some of the foundational basic skills you need to know as a BA. Trust me, I didn't even go into all of everything when it comes to process mapping. I talked about cross-functional diagramming. That's a class on its own, just that particular one. I showed you use cases. That's a class on its own. So process mapping is large, but it's just one of the skills you need to know as a BA. If you say you're a BA and you don't know how to create a process map, people just go like, then I'm not sure what you are. It's part of who we are, what we do. I didn't talk about as is process and to be process. If you've been what they call it, applying for roles, you will see those terms because those terms apply to process mapping. So, but I can't say that that's the most important thing. It's one of the many things we do as BAs.
All right, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Any other question? No other hand is up. Okay. Thank you so much, Moji. My apologies, I've eaten into your time. Please excuse me.